Let's say that we got a practice collecting $1 million a year, general dentistry, take some courses, they learn how to do all on X. They want to scale their practice to be able to do $2 million a year.
Well, it wouldn't take much if you start to bring in all on X. So you're looking on average, if we go what Clear Choice charges per arch is about $25,000. So if you start to do 4 arches a month, there's your $1 million.
All dentists know the common career paths, but how do you know which path is right for you, and are there other options out there?
On this podcast, we will be chatting with industry experts. We want to bring you the knowledge and resources you need to take your career to the next level and break down those industry secrets interview by interview.
We are here to ignite a revolution in the dental landscape
and help you, the dentist, build the career you have always wanted.
I'm Dr. Cassidy Reeder.
I'm Carter Frank.
And welcome to the Revolution Dentistry Podcast.
I'm Carter Frank here with Dr. Cassidy Reeder. This is the Revolution Dentistry Podcast, where we help you with strategies to build lasting success for yourself and your family. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a remarkable individual who has made significant contributions to the field of dentistry, Dr. Clifford Degel. From Queens, New York, Dr. Degel has earned his DDS from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. In 1990, he purchased his first practice in Astoria, New York, where he honed his expertise in cosmetic and implant dentistry. With a passion for entrepreneurship, Dr. Degel has become a co-founder of Rising Tide, the largest dentist-founded, dentist-led group in the nation. Dedicated to empowering like-minded dental entrepreneurs, Dr. Cliff is passionate about educating dentists in the value of ownership and partnership. In addition to his work with Rising Tide, he is also a part owner of Ditron Dental Implants, which is recognized for its innovative approach to dental implant systems. Dr. Degel has a passion for improving the dental industry and commitment to excellence in patient care that makes him a true leader in the field. Whether you are interested in the latest trends in implant dentistry or looking to gain insights into successful ownership strategies, Dr. Cliff Degel has invaluable knowledge to share. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Cliff.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share some stories with you guys.
We're so excited, Dr. Cliff. Thank you so much. Like Carter mentioned, you've got an incredible track record and you've done some incredible things in the industry. Considering you started your first practice in 1990 in Astoria, New York, that sounds like, and you were doing cosmetic and implant dentistry, and it sounds like you started that pretty early on as far as the implant part of it goes, So tell us a little bit about your background and what that was like.
When we got out of Georgetown, we had a lot of clinical skills. We were the #1 clinical dental school in the country. So I was very confident coming out. But we didn't learn much about implants. Back then, they didn't really teach us much about that in dental school. And when I first got out the first year, I was working for a dentist who owned multiple practices, which he was a very good entrepreneur, and I picked his mind and learned from him. He was a mentor to me. And one of the gentlemen that worked at these multiple practices placed dental implants.
Okay.
And
even back in that time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he actually learned, my friend Alon, learned from Dr. Leonard Linkow, who is probably one of the 3 founding fathers of implant dentistry in the world. So Dr. Linkow trained him, and then me and Alon became very close, and we opened up this practice together in Astoria, and basically I became his apprentice learning implant dentistry.
That's incredible.
So I've been in implant dentistry for 35 years, but I also have knowledge and have seen patients that go back an additional 20 years before that because of all the treatment and patients that he had with Dr. Linkow. So implants have always been my passion. I have always was amazed by it, that we're basically just replacing a tooth. So you got a bad tooth, and instead of having a bridge where you file down 2 beautiful teeth, or making something removable, which is even worse, you would place the tooth with an implant. So
absolutely, that. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like owning that first practice with that partner?
It was scary in the beginning. Whenever you go out and you got to pay the bills, and you're starting a practice. We had taken over a practice that was very, very small. Actually, it was more of a Medicaid type of practice, which
Okay.
we weren't looking to do. So we had to transfer over to a private fee-for-service practice, which took some time, and we did a lot of marketing in the beginning. Back then, you guys might not even remember this, there was the Yellow Pages.
Oh yeah, the Yellow Pages, love them.
So I was a major advertiser in the Yellow Pages. A pretty cool story about that. The Yellow Pages, the spokesperson was James Earl Jones.
Oh yeah.
So, you know who he is.
Of
That's
course.
Darth Vader and Mufasa.
Of course.
So when they opened up on Broadway, The Lion King, I got invited to opening night.
That's
and I
awesome.
got to meet James Earl Jones and actually sat next to him.
No way.
Got to talk to him.
No way.
Which was so it was pretty cool. So I'm sitting next to Mufasa, which was great because it's probably one of my favorite movies from Disney, but it's also Darth Vader.
He
I
could be whatever you want him to
say,
be.
Otherwise,
Gotta be careful.
right. But that's how we started. We were very aggressive with our advertising. In today's world, you would come out and do a lot of this type of stuff with videos and the internet, of course. And now in my practices, this is basically what we do mostly is advertising on the internet.
Of course. Thank you.
Awesome. So in any endeavor in life, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to have to learn some lessons, maybe some tough lessons. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned in your early career that forged your path in entrepreneurship and dentistry?
Well, the thing I will tell most young people is, it's scary, but you got to get over that fear. You got to take the risk and believe in yourself. And then once you've achieved that, it's such a great feeling. So whatever you're going to do in life, whether you want to go for that bigger house, or do implants, and you don't know, should I take this course or should I invest this money? Believe in yourself, and the money and all that will work out because you're going to be successful because you're going to make it successful. So you will make mistakes, and one of the key things about mistakes is to learn from them. So as you get older, you would not do that again.
Right.
And that's the best way to learn, But if you don't take the risk, you never get the shot.
Exactly.
You got to swing at the pitch. Otherwise, you're just standing there looking at balls and strikes.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Correct.
And that sounds like something that is a pretty big theme for your career is taking that risk.
Right. As you said, I'm involved with a DSO group. And when I got involved almost 3 years ago now, it will be this March, I got on a plane, went out to Las Vegas, and I went to this seminar that I found online with Dr. Brady Frank, who I had some background with in implant dentistry. Dr. Brady had his own implant company, which I actually liked, and I used his implant. So I went out there to hear what they had to say.
Yeah.
And, that was a taking a risk.
Yeah.
And then when I got there, I really understood what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And I jumped right in.
Yeah.
And, it was a risk then because I had to lay out money and you're like, what is this? And,
yeah.
Then you got to come home and explain it to your wife, which is always the scary thing.
Always fun.
And I'm always the guy that does it first and then comes home and has to explain it to the wife. There's a lot of guys that,
man.
I'll go home, talk to the wife, and then they get shot down.
I know. You kind of,
I will tell you as a man, do what you got to do, and then explain it to your wife later.
Oh my God. So you kind of asked for forgiveness instead of the permission.
Yeah, you come home with a bag full of money and say, "Look, I did good."
Don't be mad. Look, I did good. So you mentioned that You're a co-founder of one of the biggest dentist-owned groups in the nation, Rising Tide. Can you talk to us about what that means to be a dentist-owned group compared to the majority of other dental groups that exist?
Yes, at the end, I'm towards the end of my career now. I've been doing this almost 35 years. I'm starting to get a little tired. Uh, I was looking at exit strategies, and nothing ever really made sense to me. And I never liked these DSOs like Aspen and Heartland, and they were 90% corporate owned and
Mm-hmm.
10% by the dentist. So basically, you guys know me a little bit. I'm not going to take orders from people. Well,
Doesn't seem like it, no.
I'm always the guy running the show. So for me to change at the end of my career and look to work for somebody and be told what to do, I was like, that's not going to work well.
Right.
I knew that right away.
Right.
And then the financial parts of it, I'm like, when I started to look into this, I'm like, well, why are they giving us 4 times or 5 times X? Well, the only reason they are is because they're going to get 10 times X.
Yeah.
So what are they? They're just a middleman.
Yeah.
So
100%.
when Brady started this group, I understood that. And he said, we're going to reverse it and turn the pyramid upside down, where 90% of our DSO is owned by the dentist and only 10% is corporate. So basically what happens is our group, when we first founded it, we were some of the top dentists practice in the country. We cherry picked who we were going to get. And I'm not going to come in and change what you're doing. You're successful. You're very successful.
Right.
What we're going to do as a group, we're going to make us more successful because we're going to utilize the power of being in the group to get better pricing, better take away all the HR stuff, the payroll, all the front desk now gets controlled by the group. But your practice, the way you work with patients, the way you want to do dentistry is controlled by the dentist. And that's why these other DSO groups are failing so much. They came in with an idea that they thought they were like medical.
Uh-huh.
And medical's different.
Right.
Medical, you go into a doctor's office. They've given up on having doctors. When I was a little boy, I had a doctor that came to my house actually.
Mm-hmm.
That changed years and years ago. So in medicine, you don't build up a personal relationship with a doctor. He's standing over there anyway.
Right.
I'm right above you. My hands are in your mouth. It's a very intimate setting.
Right.
I coordinate. I will tell you, it's a lot more like a hairdresser in the world of women or a barber, because you trust them. And they're very close to you. They're into you. You get to speak to them. You learn about their families. They know about my family. They know about my grandson. They ask me all the time, to show pictures. It's a much more family-orientated practice.
Mm-hmm.
Where in these other practices, they're trying to do it like Starbucks.
Yeah.
Where you come in, get a crown, see you. Next time you come in, somebody else. You don't know who they are, what they are, what's going on.
Right.
And that's why they're failing. And they're failing quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of that going on right now, and we've seen it.
So being as we took out the middleman, we get all the rewards. So when we go and get 15X, I'm getting 15X.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not getting 4X. Is there work? Yes, there was a lot of work, especially in the beginning, to set this all up. But we had some great partners. I have some great Steve, I know, did a podcast with you guys, and AJ will probably be doing a podcast with you guys, and many other partners. They're all very, very smart people, and the key in life is to surround yourself with smarter people than you.
No, and that's why, you're here, Dr. Degel. We love your concept and what you and your partners have done, because you guys have now set a precedent, right? Now you guys have shown the dental industry that this kind of thing is possible, that dentists can be the majority owners.
Funny. And besides being in the DSO world, like I said, always my passion was implants. So one of my close friends that I became close to over 35 years of doing implants was in the implant industry, and he was doing a startup implant company called Ditron.
Right.
And when he started that company, I invested. And I'm on the board. I'm one of the top investors in the company. And the reason I did that was several reasons. If I'm doing a lot of implants, I might as well own the company that I'm buying the implants from,
Right.
right? Isn't that good
Right.
business, right?
Yeah. Control the supply
Because
chain.
these other companies are corporate owned. I'm not getting anything from them, and most of them aren't even on the stock market.
Right.
So you can't even invest that way. So this is a company that you own, that you're going to buy implants. It's dentally, all the partners in the company are dentists. Again, dentistry, entrepreneurs going into what we know.
Right.
Going into the field of implants. Everybody that's an implant dentist knows that. Why not invest into that rather than into some micron biology or something else,
Yeah.
pharmaceutical product? You don't know.
Right.
So that's the reason I did that. And now those two worlds are starting to merge together, where we are taking the implant part of that, and with our DSO, we're actually looking to make an implant DSO that will become merged all into one. All dentistry owned by dentists, created by dentists.
Right. That's fascinating. We got some more questions here in the future about the implants and your take on that as well. But yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Carter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the DSO market is evolving. They're no longer leaning on private equity as much now that the doctors realize they can be majority equity holders in these dental groups, rather than relying on private equity. How do you view the landscape changing as more dentists realize this?
Well, once you become an entrepreneur and you get into this and you see where the numbers are, the reason that private equity wants to get involved is because they're looking for a guaranteed return on their money. And basically what they saw is through COVID that the dental industry was bulletproof. So they know that they can put money into the dental world and get a steady return on that.
Mm-hmm.
Where every other industry is not like that. The retail industry is all over the place right now, and pharmaceuticals can be up, down if you don't make the FDA approval and so forth. So they're looking to build their portfolio. Real estate is another thing that can go up and down. So they have all this money, and that's why they came into dentistry. That's why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, instead of there's options that we will have as we move forward and we get larger and larger, how to get our money out. Equity is a possibility, but when you go through equity, you start to lose control because they start to take some control of that.
Mm-hmm.
Another way that we're exploring, which I think is much better, and I think Stevie might have talked about it a little bit, is where we can get banks to give us the money.
Mm-hmm.
And we can keep growing, and the cash just keeps rolling, and we keep getting a return on our investment.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just taking all the money, giving up, we can just go to the bank. The bank is saying, well, you guys are rocking. Let's get you more practice.
Right.
So instead of using equity, we go to the bank, and the bank doesn't tell us what to do, how to do it, or anything else.
That's
They just give
fascinating.
us the money and say, you give us a return.
That's fascinating. I think that, you guys cracked the code, right? Because, a lot of these DSOs or groups, they feel like the best way to secure capital, right? Or to secure that debt is by going through private equity. They want to grow. Right. These groups want to grow, but they are like, well, how are we going to get this money? They go through private equity, but private equity says we want 60% ownership of this thing. Correct. And so then that kind of ties your hands.
At that point, everything starts to unravel and break down.
Right.
And then it's also it's a taxable event.
Okay.
So now you got to pay all this tax on it. If you go the route that I'm talking about, it becomes a non-taxable event. And it's something that becomes could become generational. You're
Right.
talking about, if you ever study, I know I've talked to you boys before regarding the Rockefeller wealth.
Yeah.
Now,
Tell us about it.
they weren't the most wealthiest people in the country back then. They are now, and they have been for the last 100 years because of how they built the trust and how they have the machine
Hmm.
keep making the money. They use that as collateral to get the banks to give them money. That's the
Yeah.
key. You don't use your own money. You use your money as collateral to get money from the banks. That's
Genius.
where you make money. You grab money at 3-4% interest, you get 15% interest. So you haven't touched your pot of money, but you're making 10% or more on their money,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. That's incredible. Cliff, we are all about generational wealth concepts here on our podcast because we believe
Right.
that dentists deserve that. They work so hard, they break their backs, and we believe that they deserve, what a majority of dentists are out there to get, which is to secure generational wealth for themselves, their families. And what your group is doing is just fascinating to me and to Carter. I mean, for the dentists to be the ones in majority control of these things, to be the ones benefiting the most instead of corporate, instead of the private equity groups, just really, holds true to our heart just because we believe that it's the dentists who are putting in that work. We're the ones who have our hands in people's mouths, right? So we have to figure out how to do a lot of these private equity strategies ourselves. Like you said, they're a middleman, and I would agree with that. If us dentists, we know how to do this kind of thing, we don't need that middleman. We can hold on to a lot of this
Yeah, that's
ourselves.
something we can learn. And you'll find out that most dentists are entrepreneurial in their thinking. They're business owners. So besides being a technician where you have to have great hands and be very good and you have to have a personality, you have to be able to have people skills, there's a multifacet to a dentist than a lot of other, than doctors. They really don't do that.
Right.
They don't run a business anymore. They work for a hospital. They're an employee.
Yeah.
So when you run a business, you're always learning. So why can't I learn to do what private equity does?
Right.
Why can't I learn to do what somebody else does? Sure, I can. They were in the
Absolutely.
classroom just down the hall from me.
That's right. No, we agree. We appreciate that. So tell us, how has the field of implants, evolved over the past like 10, 20 years?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a very, very exciting time right now. I was just at the New York big meeting that we have every year here in the Big Apple,
Uh-huh.
and the technology is unbelievable. What's going on, and it's going to be the next 5 years. What technology is going to be doing in the dental field is going to be phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that basically implants work. We know the design of an implant. We know where the faults are. One of the things that we talk about in implants, to give you a little background in that world and what makes my implant company different than others, is when you have a two-piece implant, there's a connection between the post and the implant.
Mm-hmm.
That connection, that gap, that micro gap that we call, that's where bacteria can stay.
Right.
So no matter what you're doing to clean it, the bacteria always find that little slot.
Uh-huh.
And our implants are manufactured in Israel by our parent company, and the machining of our implants are done by the same machining that is used in Ferrari, Aston Martin, Formula One race cars, as well as aeronautics.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got a $1 billion car, some of these are, doing 230 miles an hour, you don't want to screw the loosen.
No.
So it's all about the machining. So when our two parts come together, that micro gap that I talked about is less than 0.5 units. Bacteria is larger than that. So bacteria can't fit in the gap.
Wow.
So that's a major, major advantage of our implant. When you have a two-piece implant, what dentists, like I said, I've been doing this 35 years. what normally will happen is the little screw that holds the connector gets loose. Now, why does that happen? That's because the connector is micro moving inside the implant because it's not machined to our precision.
Right.
So once you have the precision, that is locked in. There is no micro movement. That screw is just there for, it's not holding it in.
Right.
It's just there.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So that's an advantage of, and today with all this new technology with the scanning and the CAT scans, I looked at a new CBCT yesterday that I couldn't believe what it can do. You go in, you take a scan of the person at the same time as it takes photos of you from all 3 different angles. It creates an avatar of your face, of your teeth, what you have in your mouth. You then go to the software, you fix the teeth, create the teeth in the avatar. You can see where the midline is. You can see when the patient smiles, how high you want to go, how to open up the vertical dimension.
It's awesome.
You can then go from that point, plan an implant case, make a surgical guide that you could use to place the implants and have the prosthesis ready to go, all in just from a scan. That was 5 steps.
That's technology is insane.
From a scan.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
It is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, technology's advanced a lot.
And then what happens is now we don't make the dentures, we don't make the prostheses, we don't even the laboratory doesn't make it. I now have a printer in my office that the lab is basically now text, the computer text. I sent off all that information from the scan. I told them what I wanted. Here we go. Do this, do that. They plan it out. They send that information now to my printer in my office, make the teeth. I have the teeth. So
Same
in less
day.
than 2 hours, I have surgery to permanent teeth.
3D printing is incredible.
Amazing.
We love 3D printing here.
So digging in a little bit more on innovations and implants, All-on-X is becoming more mainstream. What are some technologies or innovations that are making it so general dentists can do more of these treatments?
Very good question. So what's happened it was very difficult. You had to have a lot of skill to do All-on-X's. And a lot of guys didn't want to learn that. It was hard. But now, the way that we attach the teeth to the implant is where the technology is going, right? We know the implant works. We fixed that, made that design, everything. Now it's how I take the teeth and attach it to that implant to make it as simple as possible. One of the ways is there's a company called Locator from Zest. Now, they make a product called the Locator abutment, which we've all been, it's like the Kleenex in the industry for making overdentures. Now, overdentures snap on and snap off. Almost every dentist knows how to do that does implants. It's a very simple procedure. They've now come up with basically utilizing the same exact system. All they did was change what the snap material is inside to make it permanent. So now you've taken something that everybody knows, that's a simple process, and made it a permanent. That is right now probably the simplest way to do it.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
And what you've done is by doing a locator, instead of anything that's screwed in or cemented in, when you put holes in the prosthesis, you've weakened the prosthesis because there's holes now in it, multiple holes. And with this system, all you're doing is making a dimple underneath the bridge to fit the housing. So the prosthesis right away is stronger, and then the other big advantage of this is, like I said, I've been doing this my whole life, is when you have to take off an all-on-4 case every so often, depending on the situation, a screw loosening is one of the biggest problems that we would have. You go and you take these off and you're like, oh my God, there's all this bacteria. It doesn't smell good. It's a mess.
Right.
You know, because even though they're trying to clean it, they're not doing a good job. Most of
Right.
these people lost their teeth due to not taking care of their teeth.
Right.
So you think it's like an alcoholic. You don't just stop drinking. So you tell them, okay, start cleaning this. Do they listen?
No.
Maybe 50% of the time. So with this system, I can have them come in once or twice a year and remove it very simply by a tool that we have that snaps it off,
Hmm.
clean everything, clean the prosthesis, and snap it back in.
Yeah.
That's a huge advantage.
Huge advantage.
That's why I'm leaning towards this system more and more.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm really glad that you bring that up. So like, we're seeing that more general dentists, because of advancements in technology, like the one you mentioned, more general dentists are able to do these kinds of things. It doesn't become so complicated. The learning curve is a lot simpler, and the treatment and the maintenance is a lot simpler. So how do you see profit margins, for practices improving for general dentistry offices that add full arch, treatment to their service?
Well, when you bring down time is money, I always say anything that I look at, if it costs this, okay, what's it doing for me? How am I going to make, like that CBCT? Why am I making that investment? Well, it makes me skip this step, that step, that's 2 hours of chair time.
Right.
2 hours of chair time for me is $1,000 an hour minimum.
Right.
All right. So that saves me that. So when you can increase speed of any process, you're going to make more money. Plus, you've simplified the process, which brings the skill level down for the person so they don't have to worry as much.
Right.
For
Absolutely.
the doctor to learn it.
So would you say, let's say that we got a practice, a general dentistry office, right, that's collecting about $1 million a year, just doing general dentistry, no full arch implants at all, no all on X, no all on 4. Let's say that someone learns like that. Let's say that general dentist takes some courses, they learn how to do all on X, and they're able to get to the point, they want to scale their practice to be able to do $2 million a year in collections.
Well, it wouldn't take much if you start to bring in all on X.
Okay, how much would you think?
On average, if we go what Clear Choice charges per arch is about $25,000. So if you start to do 4 arches a month, there's your $1 million.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And with the systems, improving, like you mentioned, it becomes a lot more feasible.
Right. So, and now because of the costs have come down because we're not so technical. So the laboratory doesn't have to make all this stuff. I'm printing it. So my profit margin, I can get more competitive with my prices. In my company, we're marketing it at $19.99.
Wow.
So we're going to do that because I've gotten my costs down due to the fact that I own the implant company. Due to the fact that I am in a group, so we have more buying power. We have all that. That's where the advantage of coming into a group is as well. And then one of the other cool things about being in a dentistry owned DSO, not a DSO.
Right.
We got to come up with a name. I know Brady's come up with a couple of names, but is the camaraderie and the idea that we can bounce ideas off each other. We're all very similar in our thoughts in my group.
Yes.
So it's really great to have that. I played a lot of sports. I was a captain on several teams in baseball, football, hockey. So I love the team concept. I love that. Mm-hmm. And I thrive in that. Mm-hmm. It's not good to be by yourself.
No.
And then you might not know it. Wow, I'm not looking at, and then the other guy said, well, do it this way. I'm like, oh my, I never thought of that.
Never thought of that.
I just bypassed me. I didn't think of it. So when you have a group of gentlemen together as a team, life becomes a lot easier because we're all striving together to all go forward. Playing a team sport is great, especially once you got good leadership and everybody follows the leaders. then the leaders lead us to victory.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. So for a dentist who doesn't currently own a practice, maybe he's an associate or maybe he just got out of dental school, what advice would you give them for maximizing their financial future through practice
Well,
ownership?
what I would tell them, first of all, is look to come into a group like ours, because all these other groups aren't given equity into the practice. We are. We want
Yeah.
you to come in. We want you to become successful. I can't do this forever. You know,
Mhm.
I'm Tom Brady. I'm on the back end of my career. You know,
Yeah.
it gets a little harder to get up in the morning every day for me now. So I need a young guy. So that young guy can come into my practice. He'll buy into the practice with sweat equity. We will train him. We have implant training centers. We
Mhm.
have them here in the US. We have them down in DR. I have them through Ditron and my implant company. And we will take you. And if you want to learn, we'll train you. And we could train you in implants. We could train you in crown and bridge, prosthetics, all of that.
That's awesome.
So come join our group. That's what you want to do, because you're going to get a piece of that, and nobody else is doing that for you.
Right. No, I think one of our goals here on the Revolution Dentistry podcast is connecting our listeners to people, who are willing to offer that kind of mentorship, right? And opportunities for,
Right.
implant training, for
The best way to
practice
learn
ownership.
is to learn as apprentice in implants, because it's not easy. So it's about repetition and seeing. When you see an expert do it, it makes it look easy because he's done it 1,000 times. I put 3 implants in the other day. It must have took me 15 minutes. My friend was the patient. He goes, "You're done?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "No." "You put 3 implants in already?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You're not paying." I said, "It's $12,000, buddy."
He's like, what
He
the
goes,
heck?
"You worked 15 minutes." I said, "It's not about how, it's because of all the years of learning that is, look, assess what did Soto just sign for."
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
because, right?
Yeah.
You're paying for the skill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You're paying for
That's
the skill.
awesome.
you pay for the experience, not the time.
Correct.
Wow. And that's so great.
I wish I could have hit a curveball. I would have been getting those contracts.
Yeah, no, we
Couldn't
all
pick
wish
up
we
the
could.
spin. I needed better eyesight back then. I didn't have my LASIK done.
Oh, the LASIK, I know. Just, if you were...
I got LASIK done like 25 years ago when I was a kid. I had those.
we were one of the first, huh?
Yeah. So I did it right after Tiger Woods did it.
Oh.
So Tiger Woods did LASIK, and I'm like, wait a minute. If Tiger did it, I'm going to do it. And then Bernie, I actually went to the doctor that did Bernie Williams for the New York Yankees.
Serious?
And, he won the MVP in the World
Oh, my
Series. So I said, okay, I
gosh.
can do it.
And how long has the LASIK lasted? Has it been good this whole
It's
time?
lasted my whole life. My eyesight, as far as long distance, is still close to 20/20. It's
Wow.
the reading glasses part that they haven't perfected. I speak to my doctors. There's a lot going on with that. This happens because the muscle relaxes over time. So
Right.
it can't bring the focus in.
Right.
So there again, is like we talked about, technology, stem cells.
Yeah.
That's where you could put stem cells, tighten that muscle up. Next thing you know, you got great eyesight.
There you go. Well, hey, if you guys didn't have enough recommendation for great dentistry strategies, here's a tip to, get some LASIK done too.
Yeah. Two things that I did for myself in my life that I'll never regret is LASIK's number one,
Yeah.
And number 2 is getting my teeth fixed.
Yeah, there you go. Those are the 2
The
top
amazing
things.
thing I will tell all your young dentists, you're going into dentistry, right?
Uh-huh.
Make sure your front sells. If you're selling cosmetic dentistry and you look like a homeless person, it ain't going to work, buddy.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. You know, so
you want to sell the Mercedes-Benz, you have to pull up in the Mercedes.
There you go. There you go. You know, so Dr. Cliff, you know, we really appreciate you coming on here and chatting with us. If someone wanted to get in touch with you regarding maybe a mentorship opportunity to ask me questions, you know, about your group or about, you know, what you recommend for them in their career, what would be a good way to reach out to you?
Best way is by email. And my email is Dr. Degel, Dregel, @yahoo.com. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Let's do it at Dregel @smile. I'm the Smile Doctor. SmileDoctor.com. That's my website.
Love it.
SmileDr.com.
Okay, so it's Dr. Degel @smiledr.com.
You got it.
Okay.
SmileDoctor.com is the website for the office, my practice. And you can email me, anybody who's interested in learning anything that I presented or talked about today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Degel. I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Revolution Dentistry podcast. If you're finding value here, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're here every week to help you grow. See you next time. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Degel.